Hi, this is Gail DeLuca, and I'm here today to teach you how to make this big, beautiful, bold tassel. This is a video companion to the book by DeLuca and myself called Check Glass Inspirations. And I'm going to set this aside and show you my original tassel designs tended to be in size 11 DeLucas or size 11 Rocailles, and they're a little bit fussy and fiddly to do. So I decided to do a bigger, bolder one and some size 8 seed beads. So that's what we're going to do today. If you've never done stitching before, you're going to like these beads a lot better, I promise. So the supplies that we're going to use are a beading needle threaded with some 6-pound fireline, and I'm using smoke to go with the darker beads in my selection. We've got some size 8 seed beads in a light bronze color and this kind of purple glowing bead over here that's another size 8 seed bead. So you need two colors that contrast because we've got two different loops here. Okay. And then we're going to use some size 15 seed beads. You don't need very many. This is just a teeny tiny amount. We've got a few little drop beads, some 4mm fire polish, and for the bigger drops in the project, we want 3 of these big dangle drops, and in addition, we want 3, these look like about 10mm beads. They're quite large. So we want to highlight that big, bold, beautiful check glass. So we're going to start with a Peyote Stitch base. And this is tubular Peyote Stitch. And I want you to pick up 6 beads, all of the same color. Doesn't matter which one you start with. So I've got 6 beads threaded on my needle. I'm going to slide that down toward the end of my thread. And I'm going to stitch through these beads again, starting at the end where my tail is coming out. This is my tail, that's the little end, and then this is the working end where the needle is coming out. And that pulls kind of into a loop, not quite. If I take a stitch through one more bead, then I can pull my thread. Ooh, don't stick yourself with a needle. I can pull my thread and form a nice loop. Okay, now to get the Peyote Stitch going, I'm going to pick up a bead, wrong color. This forms the first 2 rows of our project. Every 2 rows we want to swap colors. So we're going to pick up a bead. Your thread is coming out here. I want you to skip a bead and go through the next bead. There we go. Pick up a bead. Your thread is coming out here. Skip a bead and go through the next bead. Every row will add 3 beads. So we've added 2 beads. We're going to pick up a bead. Your thread is coming out here. Skip a bead and go through the next bead. And now we have to do what's called stepping up. What you need to do is you need to get your thread or your needle in the proper needle and thread actually in the proper position to start the next row. So I've skipped this bead. I'm going to stitch through this bead, and I'm going to take another stitch through the first bead that I added in this row, and that is called stepping up into the next row. And that gives me three beads on top of the purple. So my bronze ones are all at the bottom. I've got my 3 purple ones kind of sticking up. So that's row 1 of the purple. I need to add a second row of the purple, so I'm going to pick up a bead. Now here, the bead I skip is the bead in the row below, and stitch through the next purple. I'm going to pick up a bead, skip the bronze in the row below, and go through the next bead, which is a purple. That is bead 2 of this row. Again, there are 3 beads in every row. So bead 3, I pick up a purple. I skip the bronze in the row below. I stitch through the next bead, and then I step up through the first bead I added in this row. So I stitch through these 2 beads, just like so. And that makes 2 rows of the purple. Now we need to add a row of the bronze. Add 2 rows of the bronze. So the first row of the bronze, I'm coming out of a purple. Now it becomes easier to see where to stitch. You stitched into the bead that is sticking up. So I'm skipping this bead, stitching through the next bead. Picking up a bronze, skipping a bead, stitching through the next bead. That's the one that's sticking up. And for the 3rd bead in the row, it's the last bead in the row, I need to do a step up. So I pick up my bronze bead, skip a bead, stitch through the next bead, and then through the first bead that I added in this row. And that is our step up into, that becomes row 5. Okay, so row 6 is bronze again. Pick up 1 bead, skip a bead, stitch through the next bead. We're stitching through the bronze, which is sticking up. And I'm just going to keep stitching because I think we're starting to get the hang of it. I'm just going to go ahead and do this entire section on camera because we only have a few more rows to add. So I've got 1 bead, 2 bead, my 3rd bead I'm going to step up. Now we need to do 2 rows of the purple. There's 1 bead. Guys, this is the hardest part of this project. If you have to pause it and start it over, watch it 10 times until you figure it out, know that when you get done with this part, you will have accomplished the most difficult part of this project. Sometimes as you stitch, you realize that the colors you've chosen don't have enough contrast to them to help you see what you're doing. I'm starting to see that 2 shiny beads might not have been the best choice for this, but we're going to make it work. If it's your first time, maybe you pick more like the contrast that's in here, an opaque green and a shiny metallic. But we're going to go with it because, you know, these colors are pretty. I've only got 2 more rows to stitch. So this is a row of bronze, and then we are going to finish. Whoops. And when it gets caught on things off camera, that happens. Never goes smoothly, perfectly, does it? Okay, here we go. 1 more row. 1 more row. There we go. Get that back in the frame for you. I was getting a little ahead of myself. Okay. All right. Now, the reason that we alternate the colors is to help us see the next steps, where to place our needle. So now we're going to start creating loops. Our first row of loops is going to be 10 beads of one color, 1 bead of the other color. We're going to stitch through the drop, through a couple of beads around that 15 and back up through, and then pick up the other half of the loop. Now I'll show you with the beads that we're working with. I want the bronze on the bottom, so I'm going to pick up 10 of the bronze, 5, that's 9, 10. I want 1 of the other color. Then I'm going to pick up 1 of my big drops from the top, another 8. This is where I need a 15. Okay, so now I snug those up. I don't want to stitch back through the 15 because that's going to catch and hold the rest of these beads on. This is a fringe technique. So I'm going to stitch back up through the 8 and through the drop and come out of the drop. There we go. And then now I'm going to stitch the other half of the loop, which is going to be the purple, and then 10 of the bronze. Okay, so now we're going to pretend we're doing some peyote stitch again. Skip a bead, go through the next bead. And we are going to repeat that 2 more times around the circle. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The contrast bead, our drop, our contrast bead, a 15. Slide them all down. Around the 15, back up through the 8, through the drop, snug it up, contrast bead, and 10 bronze, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and peyote stitch around the bottom, skip a bead, go through the next bead. All right, everybody, one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Contrast. Top of the drop. Contrast. 15. Slide them all down. Around the 15, back through the 8, through the drop, out the top of the drop. Pick up contrast, pick up one contrast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, peyote stitch. Skip a bead. Your thread's coming out here. Skip a bead, go through that. Now, or go through the next bead. Oops, not that one. Skip this bead, go through this bead. There we go. Now, we have to step up. So now we're going to be stitching on top of the peyote tube. So this is the bead that we stitched through. We're going to step up into this bead right here, which is the second peyote stitch row of bronze that we stitched earlier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do another row just like this. So we're going to pause the camera. At the end of, actually we're not going to pause the camera. My cameraman was all ready to pause the camera. I'm going to show you one because this loop is going to be a little different. I forgot that we're using this other big bead. So let me do just one of these, and then we'll pause and come back to do another row, another couple layers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a purple. Now we go through one of our big chunky fire polish, an 8, a 15, slide it down. Around the 15, through the 8, out the top of the fire polish. Pick up another 8, and then 10 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And also, this help. I want you to also see where you're going on the top of the beadwork. We're going to lay our needle. See where your thread is coming out to start this loop? You lay your needle in between the beads above and below, straight across, and that's the bead that you're going to stitch into. It is the second row going that way of the bronze. Okay, so you're going to do that 2 more times, and then I'll come right back to you. Okay, and we're back. And I'm adding the last of the tassels with the larger fire polish, and I've got my 10 beads strung. So I just wanted to see you as I add this last one, again, where the needle goes. So I'm laying it like that, and I want to, you're stitching in between. You're laying the needle in between these two and stitching straight across into this, which should also be where you started in this round. So I'm going to stitch through there, but then we also have our step up to do. Every row that we add, every set of 3, we're going to step up. So your thread is coming out here, we're going to step up into the next row. So now we're working on the purple colored ones, and we're going to change up the tassel sequence a little bit. We're going to swap colors, making the main color the purple, and then we're going to add these little check drop beads at the end of each one. It's going to be a little bit easier to stitch, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to pick up 10 of the purple. 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 of the purple, 1 of the bronze. And then we're going to stitch through 1 of the drops. Then we're going to pick up a bronze and 10 purples. Okay, so now needle placement. We're coming out of the purple bead right here, stitching straight across in between these two right here into that one. There we go. We're going to repeat that 2 more times for this row, and then an additional 2 times 1 row up through the other row of purple. So I'm going to stitch that and come right back to you. Okay, we are back and we finished these other 2 rows, and at this point your needle or your thread should be coming out of, for me it's one of my bronze rows, so it's right about the middle. You should still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows left up here. So now we're going to start making shorter loops. So now we're going to go back to the bronze being the main color, and we're going to pick up 5 bronze, a purple, and a fire polish, and a purple, and then 5 bronze. So we've got a shorter loop, and again stitching. You're coming out this bead, go in between the 2 above and below and stitch straight across into the next one. I'm going to do a couple of these for you since they are a little bit shorter, but the further you get into this, the harder it is to see where to put your needle. And I get that. And it might take you a few of these tassels for it to come out, for you to be able to get to a point where you can really see it if you're not already an experienced beader. Okay, so I've got my sequence line picked up. My thread is coming out here. I'm going below the bead right above here, and it's just straight across. And right there. And 1 more for this round. 5, a purple, a fire polish, a purple, straight across. And this is the 3rd loop of the row, so you're going through the bead that you started your first loop with, and then we need to do our step up. I'm stepping up into a bronze bead. Okay, so another round of these little loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A purple, a fire polish, a purple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Straight across. 2, 3, 4, 5. Purple, fire polish, a purple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stitching looking where I'm coming out. See, it's getting harder to see. Harder to see. Let's see, coming out. Always look where your thread's coming out, and then don't want to go through that bead above. Go straight across. There we go. And I'm getting a little bit low on thread, but I think we're going to make this work. Get this tail out of my way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more loop like this, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, straight across, and we're coming into the bead where the first loop of this row started. And then we step up into a purple. And we're going to pause here while I add some more thread. Be right back.
Okay, so this is going to be part 4 of Beaded Tassel.
Alright, I've got my thread added, and if you don't know how to do that with Fireline, I do have another YouTube video. You will love this trick if you don't already know it. So go watch that if you don't know how. But we've added thread. So now I'm going to pick up 2 purple beads, one of these fancy cathedral fire polish beads. I love this bead. 2 more purple. And just like we've been doing, stitch across to the next purple in the row, and there we go. That nestles nicely. So we're almost done. We're going to add our loop here in a minute. So we're going to pick up 2 8s, the cathedral, and 2 8s, and looking where my thread is coming out, stitching across. Now, in all honesty, when you get to this point, if you're a bead or so off at the top, it gets hidden. You know, you don't have to be perfect if the end result looks perfect. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so 2 beads, a beautiful cathedral, 2 more beads, and stitching across to where I started in this round. We're only going to do 1 round of the fire polish, or I'm sorry, of the cathedral, since that takes up all the room up here. Now I want to make sure this isn't getting all tangled. One of these got a little unsnugged, so we're going to snug it back up. That looks gorgeous. That's a gorgeous, gorgeous tassel. I love these check glass beads for my tassels. So now I'm going to travel with my needle, and I'm going to stitch, let's see, here again, nobody's going to see this but me. I'm just going to stitch right up there. Look at that. Okay, so now we want to make a loop so that we can hang this on a chain, or this is some twisted sari silk. So we're just going to square stitch our loop all the way around, and I'll show you how to do that. We're coming out a bead. I want to pick up 4. I'm going to do bronze. You can do purple. You can do whatever color you're using. You know, you pick what loop color you're going to use, maybe based on the color of the strap that you're going to use. So I pick up 4 beads, and then see the bead that I stitched into? I'm going to stitch opposite that and up through 2 of the beads that I just picked up. There's that. Yes, even the pros have this happen. When you get a knot, be gentle. And this is going to take a little time, so we are going to pause and come back. After the knot. A word about knots. Be gentle. Don't tug thinking you're going to pull the knot out, because we know that doesn't happen. All I did was take my needle off and try and loosen things up and then just kind of pull it apart. So that's what I did to fix it. So we've got the start of our ladder stitch. I did pull that tight after taking the knot out. and I'm going to pick up 4 more beads. I'm going to stitch down through 3 beads and back up through 3 plus the 2, the ones that I just added. Did I pick up 4 or 5 on that? No, I picked up 4. Okay, so I'm going to stitch through 3, 4, 5 beads there. There. See how that's nice and even? Okay. There we go. Okay. We're going to continue this. Pick up 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to stitch down through 3. Over to the other column, up through 5. Pick up 4. Down through 3. Over to the other column. Up through 5. This kind of stuff is a lot easier when you're not trying to hold it to face the camera. Trust me. You'll have an easier time. Down through 3. Up through 5. Let's do another couple sets of 4. Down through 3. Up through 5. There we go. 4 more beads. Down through 3. Up through 5. Alright, I think that's got enough that I can roll it over. Now, you're going to size this. If you've got like maybe a fat kumihimo, you want to make sure this goes around it. So this is going to be fine for my purposes. And I'm going to stitch through, matching the sides up. The thread's coming out on this side. I'm going to stitch through on this side here and catch it all the way around. And then I'll stitch through this bead down here, right next to it, and then catch it and bring it all the way around. And in my other videos, we've talked about attachments and closures. And what I want to do to finish this is I want to take the time to stitch through that thread path a few more times, because this is the part that's going to get the wear and tear. But I'll just finish my train of thought on this one. It's getting a little stiffer, a little harder to get my needle through and around a curve, so you might have to stitch just a few beads at a time instead of the whole length. There we go. And once you've reinforced that, you can go ahead and tie off your threads and hang it on your favorite chain or kumihimo rope, and we have a beautiful, beautiful finished tassel. Thanks again. This is Gail DeLuca at White Fox Beads.